Playing Monopoly. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Sunday, the 6th of January 2019. So Happy New Year to you guys. I hope you had a good start to the new year. No matter if you're doing resolutions or words for the next year, or whether you're just staying the same old you who coped just fine the last year as well. I'm so glad that you're joining me today for this podcast. This is a knitting podcast. If you're watching for the very first time, I really hope that you'll like it. And if you're coming back, you know how grateful I am for those of you who are subscribed and have been following this knitting journey for the last 3 years. I'm part of that. So welcome back and let's just get started. So this is the new podcast in the new year, and typical podcasting problems arise, of course. I made it through the intro, but you know, when you set everything up and it doesn't look super complicated, I don't have a fancy setup, but still. And then of course you have something in your eye, so then you get a really red eye because you have something that you can't get out. And then my hair, it always does that, it's full of static, so it starts sticking to my lip gloss, and that's a fun feeling. Love having my hair in my face. But nonetheless, we will push through and try to record this podcast because I've been really excited to show you all the things today. I have a million things. I have, I think, 6 FOs to show you. I have 6 whips, out of which I will show you 5 because one of them I haven't worked on. I've got too much yarn to show you. We've got a new knit along, so it's going to be a long episode and I'm really excited about it. I've got my trusty friend right here, my first coffee of the day. It is, I want to say it's the morning, but we slept until 11, so it's not that early in the morning anymore. But anyways, the boyfriend is busy, which is great because then I just have all the time to podcast and then do some knitting. So, where should we start? Let's start with what we'll talk about. So I'll start with Ravelry group stuff, knit-alongs, then I'll talk about finished objects, works in progress, stashed acquisitions, and then life in general. If by then I have any voice left, we'll just see how it goes. So yeah, where do we start? We have a group on Ravelry called the Happy Knitting Podcast Group. You can always find it linked underneath the video on YouTube as well. And that is where you can find all the knit-alongs that we are running. I have sent out the prize for the tea and ice cream sock knit-along, so that's all done. And we have 2 knit-alongs running at the moment, one of which is the Happy Sweater Along. The idea is to just knit yourself or your adult friends some garments, but the idea, of course, is to knit them for yourself. But I can't stop you from being more generous than I am. So anyways, knit some garments, just have fun with all the sweater patterns, cardigan patterns. I know at least one person who is knitting her first ever sweater, and that's just so exciting. So you can join in until the last day of January, which is January 31st. And you can enter both by using the chatter thread and using the FO thread. So you still have plenty of time to participate, even if you don't finish. What we're doing is we're doing a happy handspun along. So the idea is that I really want to get some handspun yarn out of stash, knit some hats, knit some gifts, maybe just knit some stuff for myself as well, because without wanting to sound arrogant, some of my handspun is actually not that bad. So I just decided to start a knit along now, and I think we will run it until the end of February, so that's 2 months, and you can knit anything out of handspun. I mean, you can be super ambitious and do a sweater and all that. But if you just want to knit some wrist warmers, that's fine as well. So the handspun doesn't have to be spun by you. If you have a friend who is a spinner, feel free to use someone else's handspun. You also can mix handspun and non-handspun yarn. Just, you know, be somewhat mindful. Don't do a garment with one handspun strap. But besides that, I'm counting on you to make good decisions, and I hope that those of you who aren't spinners won't feel left out, because of course you can still participate in other ways, such as getting hand spun from other people, or you can always participate in the Happy Sweater Along. So I haven't really thought about prizes for that yet. If anyone wants to donate some prizes, please do get in touch via Ravelry, but I'll figure something out either way. So those are the 2 knit-alongs that we have running. Both of them have Instagram hashtags as well. If you want to join in, that would be really fun. Besides that, just a quick update, of course, for those of you who are new. I don't do show notes for this podcast, but I do really good project pages usually on Ravelry. So if you have any questions as to yarns that I'm using, needle sizes, modifications, the best place to start is always by looking in my project pages. My Ravelry name should have flashed in front of you in the beginning, but it is Wupfi, which is WUEPFI. So all the relevant information about the projects that I will be talking about should be on Ravelry for you to just look up. So that is it, I think, for sort of upkeep and all that boring stuff. Let's get into some knitting. So I have a couple of FOs. Where should we start? Maybe should we start with the elephant in the room? You guys, I am wearing my finished No-Frills Sweater, and oh my gosh, this is like the best sweater ever. I am so happy with it. I finished it while on holiday, while I was sick, so I never even tried it on. And I just put it on this morning because I knew I was going to podcast, and I love this sweater. This is the perfect sweater. So this is the No Frills pattern by Petite Knits, or Petite Knits, I think. And I knit it out of a yarn that I got in France. It is from La Droguerie, which is a French yarn store that I think can be found in most major cities in France. And this is their Caresse base, which is a mix of Angora, soy, mohair, wool, and bamboo. So it's a pretty fancy yarn. I've never used anything like this before, and as you may or may not know, the No-Frills sweater is one of those sweaters that are really popular right now, that are knit out of a strand of mohair held double with a strand of fingering weight yarn. And this yarn basically gives you the same effect without having to A, purchase expensive mohair yarn, and B, having to hold yarn double. So I think this is about a sport weight or heavy sport weight. I didn't really know when I bought it. But I just swatched with a 3.5 millimeter needle, and I got relatively close gauge. So I just decided to go for it. And this is the sweater. Should we stand up? I hate standing up because it's always super awkward. But yeah. So as you can see, it fits really well around the top. And it's kind of hip length. I can't see what you're seeing. I did 3/4 length sleeves. It's got a little bit of positive ease. What I did is, the sweater is quite boxy, and I didn't want it to be hugely oversized, because a lot of people, they have it very oversized, and then they have very long oversized sleeves, and I don't know, it could be really, really nice, but then I also thought it could be a bit tent-like. And I do a lot of oversized sweaters, I think, lately, but I don't want to just have shapeless things. So what I did is, also because my gauge, I think, was a little bit more off than I thought in the beginning, is I split for the sleeves quite a bit earlier. So, you know, I still have quite a bit of positive ease there, but the pattern has you do way sort of longer increases, and then the sleeves only start like down here. And just the way that the pattern is written, there are a lot of stitches on the sleeves already compared to the body. So I didn't want to have huge puffy sleeves, which then I would have to decrease, because I don't like puffy sleeves. So I split a little bit early, and it came out perfectly, to be honest. I couldn't love this anymore. As usual, I did my own decreases, and I decided to do relatively fitted sleeves. just because I feel like if everything is oversized, I don't really like the garment. So yeah, it is done. I was really curious to how this would wear, this yarn blend, and I can't really comment because I haven't worn it long. But so far, I'm not overheating or anything. It's, if anything, more of like a lighter sweater, which is great because I was a little bit worried that this may feel a bit like those cheap, plastic sweaters that you sometimes buy from H&M and then you just sweat in them and they're really uncomfortable. And this clearly isn't. I mean, I don't know why I was thinking that because all the materials are nice and quite fancy. But yeah, so far it's feeling really great, and like this is such a good staple. Like all my yoked sweaters and stuff, I love them, but they're not really everyday wear necessarily. Whereas this, I mean, I could dress this up for work, which is fantastic. So I'm really, really, really excited about this. And I will, of course, let you know how it wears over time. Next up, let's talk about a finished object that isn't mine. And that is, you guys, this beautiful cowl. And guess who knit this for me? Yes, Kai knit this for me. This is Kai's FO, and if you don't know, Kai is my fiance, who knits about once a year, and on our winter holiday, it was that time again. And we got this, this is a wool, almost 100% wool yarn by Lana Grossa. And this stuff is usually really expensive. But sadly, the yarn store that we used to go to all the time in Kempten is closing down. And they had a big sale, and so Kai got a very big cake of this yarn. I can't remember the name, I'm very sorry, but it's one of those, it's a wool yarn that is blown through a nylon casing, I guess. So it's super fluffy, super soft, but it is still mainly wool, because I know a lot of these chunky yarns often have a high nylon or acrylic part, which I don't like. But because this had so much wool in it, I thought it would be a great present for Kai, because he really wanted to knit something with chunky yarn, and because he's the sweetest guy, he doesn't want to knit for himself, he wanted to knit for me. So we bought this ball of yarn, and originally he was going to make a garter scarf, because that is his knitting of choice. He loves making garter scarves. But then I said, well, if I start you a cowl and do the ribbing, and you just knit in the round, one of these cowls would actually be really, really nice to wear all the time, but it's something that I would never knit. So he said yes, and he made me this cowl. I just don't want to put it on because I don't want to mess with the microphone. But it is super soft. It is, oh my gosh, I love it so much. He knit this on a 6mm needle, which made for a quite loose gauge. And it is just so fluffy and warm, and it's actually been perfect for those days when you want something warm around your neck, but if maybe you're like me and you're lazy and you don't want to fiddle with your shawls all the time, so this is just perfect, and I just love this. So that is Kai's FO. Next up, and I have something in my eye again. What is wrong today? I knit some hats for the handspun along, and I actually caked up, I think, 5 skeins of handspun before we went away, packed some hat needles, and just decided to see how much I could get done. And my mojo kind of lasted for a while, but I finished 2 hats. So the first one I finished is this hat. It is out of a yarn that I spun, I think, last year. It was my first ever braid of Malabrigo fiber, which I think is called Noob. And I didn't really like spinning it. The fiber was quite felted, and it took quite a bit of work to get it to spin nicely, which is what a couple of people on Ravelry seem to have experienced as well. But I turned it into a very squishy 2-ply. So what I like to do is I like to spin the yarn with not that much twist, but then ply it high twist, and then it gets this really nice sort of full round texture. So I decided to just knit up a hat out of the yarn, which I think is really nice. And this is what I came up with. So I did a 1x1 twisted rib, and then just a stockinette hat with some decreases. And I decided to try a pom-pom just to use up the yarn. And why does this look so floppy? Because I don't have a pom-pom maker. I'm like the only knitter out there who doesn't have a pom-pom maker. So I decided to do a pom-pom the old-fashioned way, like my grandma taught me, where you cut out pieces of cardboard and wrap your yarn around it. And for the size pom-pom that I wanted, it turned out to be quite a lot of work. And the pom-pom isn't great, but I think it's kind of cute. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep that on there, or if I have a lot of fake fur pom-poms, which I think would make this hat look a little bit more sort of fancy. So I may actually take this off and put on like a gray or white pom-pom. I think that would be really nice as well. But yeah, really happy with this hat. It fits my head, and it's actually quite nice and warm. So I'm very happy with this one, and that makes one skein of handspun out of stash. I decided to cast on another one, and this is with some really old handspun. I have actually no idea what this is, so I can't remember spinning it. I am assuming it is a merino just because I spun with a lot of sort of, inexpensive merino in the beginning. This was a 2-ply as well. It was much chunkier, and how I know that this was a very early spin, there were like a million knots in here, which means that when plying, the yarn broke off. I mean, I may even have spun this on my spindle. I'm not quite sure. It's a really, really old handspun, and I cast on a couple less stitches. I think I did 96 stitches on a US size 6mm needle, 4mm. US size 6, 4mm needle, that's it. I did 96 stitches for this one, which is more of a DK weight, and for this one I did 72 stitches. I did a 1x1 rib, followed by 1 round of pearls, and then just stockinette. And I'm not sure, this is a little bit too small for my head, but a little bit too big for my niece's head. But I think I may just keep it because she'll grow into it. And it's a really cute hat. Again, I should put a pom-pom on it because I gave her a hat with a pom-pom for Christmas and she loved it. Like, the pom-pom was super soft. It's a faux fur pom-pom, one of those really, really soft ones. And the pom-pom was obviously the highlight of the hat. And she looked super adorable with it. So I think I may just put a pom-pom on it and just send it to her. And she will wear it. And if it takes a while for her to fit in it perfectly, it doesn't really matter either. So I think I will do that. Like you can see, I did quite sort of rapid decreases for this one, and I like how it turned out, and I like using handspun. So that's my progress so far on the happy handspun along. I'm planning to do a couple more, and I also want to do some shawl knitting. Yeah, further on with finished objects. I finished another sweater. So I finally finished the sweater beast, which is my Yspres sweater by Ellie of Scandia Knits. This sweater was featured in the latest issue of Bladet Garn, which is a Norwegian knitting magazine that you can buy as an ebook in English. I knit this out of a English yarn, a British yarn. This is Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. Please don't ask me what the colorway is. I ordered it on a cone, so I don't know. But it's always showing up very bright, but it's actually a very nice sort of dark burgundy red. Like, if I show it to you down here, you can kind of see the color. And guess what, you guys? I only used 250 grams of the main color for this sweater. So once again, the Jameson yarn magic happens again, where I get a sweater out of way too little yarn, and it only happens with this yarn. I don't know what it is about this yarn, but I need so little of it to make sweaters. And this is like a hefty sweater. Like, it has full-length sleeves. It has a not super long but relatively long body. And in comparison to my first sweater that I knit out of this yarn, which was my 3-year, for this one I had a tighter gauge as well. So this feels very substantial, and yet I didn't use very much yarn. So this turned into a bit of a beast. I don't know why. Like I said, the first sweater out of this yarn, I was like, this is my dream yarn. This is the perfect yarn, and I loved it. And I love wearing it. This one, I think because I went down a couple of needle sizes to get more of a dense gauge, this kind of felt heavy and a bit more like a beast. It may also have just been the pattern, which was obviously a lot of knitting, a lot of stitches. It's oversized. The The color work was fun but not super easy to me. But I just don't like it as much. And I don't like the yarn as much. I don't know what's going on with that. But this is going to be a very warm sweater, and I'm really happy to have it done. I've wore it a couple of times. What I've already noticed is that this attracts all the hairs and all the fuzz, and everything sticks to the sweater, which either doesn't happen or I just haven't noticed it with the lighter sweater that I knit out of this yarn. But yeah, the design is really pretty. I really like how it came out. It fits really great. I'm going to just wear it another time. So you will see it worn eventually. But yeah, this is done. I'm very happy to have it finished. I think I knit this on 3.25 millimeter needles, but again, you can look it up in my project pages if you want to be 100% sure. And just this color work here is really pretty, isn't it? And this is the sweater where you do sort of like a tiny bit of double knitting on the inside to just avoid having the carried floats show on the outside. So that's what made it a little bit more work, but it turned out pretty well. Maybe I'm just associating this as well, because I had quite a bit of stress and annoyance in the weeks before Christmas when I was knitting on this quite a lot. So maybe I'm just transferring bad feelings onto this poor sweater, because it's a nice sweater. I don't know why I'm not 100% excited about it, but I think I will be at some point. So it's fine. So that is another finished object, and then we have one more. And these are my Christmas socks. So if you didn't watch my vlog, these are new to you, but this was the yarn that I cast on for my Christmas Eve cast on Christmas Eve. The yarn that I used is from Valkyrie Fibers in the Eowyn colorway. It's a Lord of the Rings reference, and I don't have any idea about Lord of the Rings, and I know someone told me how to pronounce it, but I forgot. I'm sorry. But it's a beautiful self-strapping yarn. So what I did with it is I did a 2x2 rib followed by just a stockinette sock, because I think self-strapping yarn just lends itself so well. And I did true afterthought heels, as always using the tutorial by Kirby Werby, which is on YouTube. And yeah, I did matching socks, and these just turned out so beautiful. I love working with the yarn. This was, well, I have worked with minis from Lauren of Valkyrie Fibers before, but this was my first full skein of yarn of hers that I used, and I love the base, which is in merino nylon, and these just brought me a lot of joy, and I finished them, I think, in 6 days. So I finished my Christmas Eve cast on before New Year's Eve, which was great. But yeah, very, very, very happy about these. I can't wait to wear them, and you know my love of self-strapping yarn, so yeah. And I knit these on 2.25 millimeter US size 1 needles over 64 stitches. So these are done. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. They have these tiny speckles in some of the colors as well, and I just love it. So, you guys, that is finally it. After 33 minutes, we are done with finished objects. This is going to be a long episode. So for works in progress, I'm going to try to speed up just a little bit. In here, I have the socks that I already showed you last week. Last time I podcasted. These are knit out of a yarn by Amy of Stranded Dye Works. This is the Batcave colorway, which is Batman inspired. This was a seconds because I think it has some purple speckles sometimes in the yarn, which I don't mind. And this is in her MCN base, which is a merino nylon cashmere. And in the last podcast episode, when I showed these to you, I had started Hermione's Everyday Socks, but already kind of thought that maybe I might rip out the patterning because it didn't really show up. So that's what I did, and instead I decided to go with a vanilla latte sock, which is also a free pattern on Ravelry in case you're interested. It's a super simple pearl and knit texture, and I think it works much better with the yarn. So As you can see, the speckles, they're just so pretty and so fun. And the first sock is already done. So I did the vanilla latte socks, as I said, with a garter stitch fish lips kiss heel. And I have started the second one, and this is how far I've gotten on it. So not super far, but I really like working with this yarn. I'm curious to see how it will wear, considering there's cashmere in it and I have mixed experiences with cashmere and socks. But yeah, very happy about these. And yeah, I will probably take these with me tomorrow because I'm doing a work trip. I need to decide whether I'm taking these or the other socks. But I feel like if I just sat down, I could finish these quite quickly. And yeah, I totally need another fancy pair of socks on my feet. Next up, I think we have another pair of socks. Oh yeah, in here is my New Year's cast on. So I had, of course, I had to do a New Year's Eve cast on, and I didn't bring any yarn. I only brought yarn to do gift knitting, and you don't do gift knitting for your New Year's Eve cast on. So I popped out to the local yarn store where we were staying. It's a very, very tiny one, but they have some balls of Regia, and they just happen to have this yarn by Regia in their tweed range, that exactly this colorway I've been looking for, I've been wanting to get for a while anyways. So this is Regia tweed color in the colorway 7492. And it didn't look very tweedy when I bought it. Like, it looked quite colorful. And I was just really interested to see how it will knit up. So I cast on a pair of socks, of course, as you do. And again, I have finished the first sock and I haven't put it on a sock blocker. But now that it's actually knit up, you can see how tweedy it is. So it is, again, 2x2 rib sock, then just knit in stockinette, and there are a lot of tweed bits sticking out. And then I don't know what was going on, but I decided to go for a heel flap and gusset construction, and I haven't done that in years. So like, how everyone starts new and fresh in the new year? I started by going back to a technique that I haven't done in years. But this is a sort of heel that I learned to knit when my grandma taught me how to knit socks. And I actually had to look it up again because I forgot how to do it, but it came back really quickly. So I did in Germany it's called Herzchenferse. So it's a heart-shaped or triangular, I think, shaped heel turn. Please don't ask me for instructions because I only found them on some German websites. But I mean, you all know how a heel turn works. Heel turn, gusset, and yeah. And I also experimented with a more rounded toe. So I don't know, I just felt like experimenting with these. Not sure if they're the prettiest socks, really, honestly, if I don't love them. But they were fun just to play with. And again, the second sock has been cast on. It barely has been cast on, but still, it has been cast on. So this would also be a good contender, maybe even more so than the other one, to take on the train tomorrow. So that is it in terms of what I've been doing with my sock knitting. Next up, I have my blanket, of course, and then 2 new cast-ons. Let's do the blanket first. Taking apart my desk light. As you all know, I am knitting my northeasterly blanket, which is a pattern by Skein-Anigans. And I've made some progress on it, and what I've done is actually, this is kind of acquisitions as well, but I hit all the New Year's sales, you guys, all of them. And Felt Fusion always does a big one, so I picked up a couple of her 20-gram mini skeins for my blanket. These are all 20 grams, and now I've realized I only need about 10 grams for the blanket. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the leftovers, but I will think of a fun mini skein project. So these are by Felt Fusion on Etsy, I think. And anyways, the blanket that I was talking about is, of course, this one. Let's try to show you the front. So this is what my blanket looks like. So I started down here. Let me show you there, yeah. And I have no idea where I was last time. I think last time I showed it to you, I am like, since then I've added this, which you may find familiar. This is the bat cave that I'm using for my socks. I added it while still working on the socks because I just had to go in there, then use some mystery mini skeins. Then I added this speckly mini skein, which I absolutely love. I think I got this from Grace. I used to think it's a hedgehog fibers, but it isn't. I'm not sure what it is, but it's amazing. And then, as you can see, I've started adding in the minis that I got. I added in one. So this is how far I get with 10 grams of a mini skein, which is quite a lot. And now I'm just working in another speckled because I don't want to put all the solid yarns next to each other. So I'm trying to mix it up and have like a mix of solids and speckled yarns. So that is my northeasterly blanket, and as usual, because I will get questions about it, the methods of my join, which is a little bit different, can be found on the Ravelry page. So there's nothing wrong with the pattern and the join that she proposes, by the way. But if you want to do the join that I'm doing, just go to my Ravelry page and you will find all the information there. Maybe it doesn't really make sense to show this to you each time. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think. And next up, very excitingly, I have 2 new cast-ons. I only planned for one, and then the other one just happened yesterday. But the one that I had kind of planned and taken the yarn to cast on a holiday is a new sweater. And let's just untangle this mess first and then talk about it. So the yarn that I've taken, and I took this without a specific pattern in mind, is this yarn that I got quite recently, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 months back. This is Isagar Highland Wool. It's a very light fingering weight yarn from Peru, even though I feel like the brand is from Denmark or something. I'm messing all of this up. Anyways, the yarn is from Peru, and it's a very light fingering yarn. So I had 3 balls of this and 1 ball of this color. This is rhubarb, and this one I believe is sand. Why I didn't get 4 of these, I'm not sure. Why I'm making myself play yarn chicken once again. Why do I never learn? I don't know. But anyways, and then on New Year's Eve, a new pattern dropped, which is the Dark Water Sweater by Jennifer Steingas, who is, of course, Knit Love Wool, and she's famous for all her beautiful colorwork sweaters. I think I've knit like at least 3 of them. So I decided to go for that, and I swatched immediately. I did, as you can see, a super sizable swatch. No, I'm just kidding. I knew that I wasn't going to get gauge with the needles that she proposed, so I went with my standard 3.5 millimeters, and it turns out I got gauge. And I just did a small swatch, because then I can just measure gauge and try on as I go. I don't see the point in forcing myself to do a giant swatch, and especially because I swatched this in the round, and usually I don't swatch in the round because I always play yarn chicken, and what if I run out of yarn? So I tried to do a swatch with using as little yarn as possible. In hindsight, it would have been smarter to swatch with the contrast color because I know I have enough of this. Whereas in the main color, I'm missing about 200 meters. So, I mean, that can only go wrong, right? Anyways, I swatched and I cast on. So this is the Dark Water Sweater, like I said, and I'm still not 100% sure if my color choices are the best, because everyone has been knitting it sort of in really dark colors and high contrast, and I kind of like the dark. Whereas this is going to be a much softer color palette, but again, that could be really nice. I mean, just because no one seems to have done it so far, I'm not really sure. So I just cast on, and you do a couple of like short rows and increases and stuff, and now I'm into the color work. You can't really see too much yet, but it is starting to evolve. And I mean, you can see the kind of contrast. So I think it may actually, once it's blocked and finished, it may look really, really nice. And not every colorwork sweater has to be super high contrast, in my opinion. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think I'm doing the right thing. I think I'm liking it. I'm just going to keep going for a while and see how it goes. Yeah, but like I said, I'm knitting these on 3.5 millimeter needles. I was kind of in between sizes. I decided to go with the bigger one, which is the second one, even though that gives me a little bit more positive ease than I want, but we'll see how it goes. I can always, there's no decreases in, what's it called? There's no waist shaping in the pattern, so I think I may do waist shaping. And that way, first, it'll fit a little bit better, and secondly, I'll be using less yarn, so I have a better chance of making it, because I think, contrary to what the pattern says, I think just from what I've knit in the past and stuff, I should have enough yarn. We'll see how it goes, but this is my Dark Water Sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and I'm really, really enjoying this yarn. I'm using this for the very first time, and once again, like with every second yarn that I use, I started casting on with this, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite yarn ever, and I want to never knit with anything else. So we'll see how it goes, but so far I'm really liking it. Okay, let's put it back in the bag without dropping any stitches. And that was supposed to be it. You may remember, wasn't there another sweater? Yes, there was. There was the faded sweater that I'm doing, the My sweater, and I haven't touched it at all in the last 2 weeks. So nothing to report there. But once I pick it up, I mean, there's not that much more to do. Like a tiny bit of the body and the sleeves. So really, if I just sat down, I would have it done quite quickly. And I think I will be more likely to work on it when it gets a little bit warmer. Because right now we have so much snow, it is freezing. And my sweater is knit on a very loose gauge, and it's going to be the perfect sweater for like spring, like a really light top / sweater. So I think once it gets a little bit warmer, I will really want to wear it, and I will just pick it up and finish it. But yesterday, like I said, we had so much snow, and it was kind of gray, and all I wanted to do was play with color. And I haven't really had this sort of need for like indie dyed crazy colors in a long time, but I just felt like doing a shawl with like unusual colors for me and just going for it. Because last year, as you may remember, I only knit 4 shawls, which is not very much, and I don't really have a shawl that I wear all the time that I love. Like, I've given a lot of my shawls away, and it's been a long time since I've made myself a shawl that I really needed, and right now I actually do need one. So I thought that's a perfect occasion to just cast on with reckless abandon. So I basically took my stash apart, and when doing that, I realized, like, you know, I used to have a lot of indie dyed single skeins of yarn, and since I've gotten on this crazy sweater kick, I've bought so much yarn, but it's all been like sweater quantities. So my stash on crazy colored yarn, I mean, it is big, but I think that's actually gone down last year. But anyways, I took apart my stash and looked at all the possible color combinations and decided to go with something a little bit out of my comfort zone. And this is it. It's not coming across as bright as it should be, but these are 3 skeins that are all 3 of them are kind of speckled. This one is a treasure of mine. This is a Madeline Tosh Merino Light in, I think, the Cocoa colorway. Let's see. Yoko, like Yoko Ono. So this is Madeline Tosh. This is a single ply yarn. This is possibly the most beautiful yarn that Hedgehog Fibers have ever dyed. This was a club colorway in their sock yarn club. It's called XOXO. It may also be the first club skein that I ever got, but I'm not quite sure. But this is just beautiful. Like, I seriously don't know if anyone can dye anything more beautiful than this. And then I decided to pair it with a darker yarn. This isn't obviously caked up yet, but this is Das Mondschaf in her Pegasus base, which is a merino nylon sock yarn, but it's super soft in the Moria colorway, which probably is a reference to something that I'm once again not getting. But yeah, so these are the 3 colors I chose, and I really wanted to do something that was a little bit mild and faded and like not 3 color blocks, but I wanted something that works all the colors together. I even thought about a West Knits smocket shawl, and I never followed trends. But in the end, the pattern is called Love You Baby, and You is spelled E-W-E. And this was a collaboration, I think, with Do You Knit, which is a yarn store in the US. And it's a 3-color shawl that uses brioche and garter and maybe short rows, I think so. And it just looked like the perfect project to kind of mix all these 3 colors together and just have some fun. So I have started, and I've been addicted to this since starting it yesterday. Excuse the yarn barf. So this is it. So what you do is you start with a quite large 2-color brioche section. So this is theoretically the front, and this is how it looks on the back, which in itself I think is just super, super fun. I love using speckled yarns together to do brioche. I think like with brioche is the one technique where you kind of get away with everything and anything. So if you want to combine all the crazy colors, brioche is definitely your friend. So what you do is you knit a relatively long triangle, sort of with the 2 colors. And then later I will pick up the stitches and I think knit something lengthwise, and it's going to be really fun. I don't really know how it's going to work, but it's going to be really, really fun. And also, it's been a long time since I've worked brioche. So when I picked it up and started knitting in the first couple of rows, brioche is so fiddly. But now that I've gotten into it and the rows are a little bit longer, it's just so much fun, and I just couldn't stop yesterday. I just had so much fun with all the colors and the texture. And usually you may know that I don't really like mixing bases, so mixing a hedgehog sock yarn, which is one of the finest sock yarns I know, with a plump single space, isn't really my thing. But with brioche, it's kind of the easiest way for me to get away with it, and it actually gives it a really nice texture as well. So I'm really, really happy with this. Can't wait to work on this some more, and this has just given me sort of the color that I've been wanting, and it's making me very, very happy. You may have noticed with my knitting recently, I've kind of just given up on planning too much and holding myself accountable, because I don't have lingering whips in general, so I think I'm doing pretty good. But I just feel like if it makes me happy, I'm just going to cast on. And in this instance, I actually really need the finished object as well. So I'm very, very excited about this, and I think it's going to be a really fun project to see grow and show you guys and stuff as well. So for this, I'm also using 3.5mm needles, because I just go down on needle sizes with everything. And I know that brioche in the recommended 4mm needles would just be too loosey-goosey for me. So yeah, that is my last cast on and my last whip, except for the sweater that I'm not showing today. So that brings us to some acquisitions. I won't go over the Christmassy yarn gifts because I talked about them in the vlog, so I don't want to go over them twice. But you guys have been so bad, because I got through Black Friday without buying anything, I think. I was really proud of myself, but I didn't expect that everyone would be having sales on like my favorite yarns and all the yarns that I've ever wanted at the end of the year. So I spent a little bit of Christmas money, which I mean, that's what it's for, so I'm not going to feel bad about it. The first thing that I got, I think I ordered this on Christmas Day or something, is actually from a very new to me company. I don't even know how I found them. I think I was looking for D-stashes, and this yarn brand, they also do some D-stashes. And then I found their hand-dyed range. But anyways, this is a UK company called It's a Stitch Up. I've never heard of them before. And I think it seems like they're more famous for like colorful speckled yarns. They seem to do a couple of shows, and I think this was their Yarndale colorway. This is called Dancing in the Dark on their favorite sock base, which is a 100% merino superwash. I would say it's probably a 2-ply. It's got a really nice sort of 2-ply high twist and feel to it. And I mean, this colorway is just amazing. I'm not sure if it's going to show up perfectly. Apparently it's not going to focus. Come on. There you go. It's just beautiful. It's this plummy purple, but with kind of brown undertones to it, and it's just stunning. So what I did is I got myself 3 skeins to make myself a sweater. Like I said, this is fingering weight. This is going to be a beautiful sweater, and you may remember, I knit myself that Jolie sweater out of a similar, if slightly more purple yarn last year. And everyone kept telling me that it's a really good color for me, so I think this is kind of the same thing. It's maybe a tiny bit more on the browny burgundy side of things, and it's going to be a perfect color for a sweater. So very, very excited about this. And then I went on the loveknitting.com, which I don't do very often. I feel like I get emails from them about 10 times a day. But they usually have the stuff on sale that I'm not really interested in. But this time they had stuff on sale that I've been wanting to get for ages. They had, for those of you who are in the US, this is probably not interesting at all. But I've been wanting to get some Cascade 220. Because I've worked with, what's it called? Cascade Heritage? Before, the one that comes in 100 gram skeins, and while I love the color, I didn't really like the sort of superwash feeling that they had. But I've been wanting to get Cascade 220 fingering for ages, and Love Knitting had it like 50% off. So I thought, well, if I'm ever going to get some, I might as well get it now. So that's what I did. So I got a couple of skeins. I think I got 4 in this creamy color. What's it called? 9591. Isn't that a great colorway? But it's just a really nice creamy color, and if you don't know, these come in 50 gram balls. This is the fingering weight version, and it feels really wonderful. I really, really like the feel of this yarn. Like, I'm obviously getting this for color work, because what else would you do with it? And I really like it. And to go with it, I got just a couple of different colors. I got 2 skeins of this mustardy green, and these were all on sale. This is 9566. I didn't know which one of these gray greens I liked, because they looked almost the same on screen, so I just got one of each. This one is 9593, and this one is 9620. And I also got a dark navy to go with it. This is 8393. So I think this is going to make a beautiful sweater. This one, I prefer the other one, I think. And whatever I don't use, this would be perfect for colorwork hats, for colorwork mittens, like all the colorwork things I could make with these. I really like it, and I can't wait to try this yarn, because you know my quest to try all the yarn that's out there in the world. So I got these, and that was supposed to be it. But then I decided to also jump on a couple of the West Yorkshire Spinners yarns, because I only ever use the West Yorkshire Spinner sock yarn, but I know that they have quite interesting other yarns as well, with interesting like British wool blends. And what I decided to go for in the end is their Jacob's yarn. So this yarn is DK weight. I think they have DK and they have Aran weight, and it comes in 100 grams per skein. And this is 100% Jacob yarn from England, or from the UK. And I got 3 skeins of this marled grey, and it's got a bit of a brown undertone. I think it's really beautiful. This would also make a great sweater. Again, why didn't I buy 1 skein more and not play yarn chicken? I don't know. Apparently I love yarn chicken. I must love yarn chicken. I must love, I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. And I also got 1 skein of the natural to go with it. Yeah, so this one is called light gray. Very, very creative name. And this one is called Ecker. And I'm glad I got more of this one, because I thought about going the other way. But I kind of thought, well, you know, it's so easy to ruin a white sweater, so I erred on the side of caution. And I do like the natural or the light gray one a lot more than the ecru one. Like, I don't think it is bleached. I think this is just a natural color. But I just like the mild effect of this a lot more. So yeah, very happy with these, and yeah, maybe a little bit too much yarn, but oh well. There may also be more yarn on its way to me. But I have decided I jumped on all the sales because these were all things that I've been wanting. And now I just have all the beautiful yarn in my stash to play with. So I'm not putting myself on a yarn diet, but I really want to enjoy what I have and knit with it and play with it and experiment with it, because there are so many things in my stash that, like, especially all these rustic sweatery wools. I mean, I want to try them all. So I'm really looking forward now. I feel like I have a great stash to play with. And maybe I will have a few less acquisitions. I will at least try. But I know I have a custom order that I made in December, which is coming relatively soon. And like I said, I may have made some further damage with the New Year's sales. Anyways, you guys didn't need to know about that. That's my business, I guess. But that's it for acquisitions. So that's it for the yarny content of the show. So if you don't want to hear me rant about just what's been going on, not necessarily rant, just blather on, I will just see you next week. And if you do want to stick around, I'll just very quickly cover what's been going on. And yeah. So today is Sunday the 6th, like I said. So it's, for me, it is the end of a 2-week holiday, which is so sad. You would think that after 2 weeks you'd be like kind of happy to go back to work as well. No, I'm not. But I think once I start again, it'll be fine. But yeah, we had 2 weeks off. As you know, the first week was spent traveling all over Germany to visit family, so that was quite intense. While really, really nice, also quite tiring and exhausting. And then the second week, as we do every year, we went down to the Alps and just hung out and enjoyed and didn't do anything. And that was really, really nice. We're very lucky that Kai's parents have this tiny place near the Alps in the south of Germany. It's about a 1.5-hour drive from here, and we can basically just go down there whenever we want. And it's just the coziest place. It's the best place to knit if you want a knitcation. It's just, you just hang out and knit all day long. And so we spent about a week there, and it was really, really nice. I was a little bit unlucky because I came down with a stomach flu, so that kind of didn't really make it so great. I only had one really bad day when I couldn't even knit, and I kept on falling asleep, and Kai was telling me to knit to keep me awake, and it was not fun. But I overcame that, and I'm feeling pretty much back to normal now, which is great. Because of that, we didn't do that much, but we went on one really nice hike. We did a little bit of shopping. We got our wedding rings, which was really exciting. And in the beginning, we also had some not bad weather, but we had a lot of like really wet snow and slush, and it was really gray outside, so it wasn't really the greatest weather to go outside, which was great because it was great for being inside and knitting and yeah, just enjoying spending some time together. So that's been really, really great. And then on a super crazy whim on Friday night, and we had been wanting to go back on Saturday, and it was supposed to have really bad traffic on Saturday because everyone's going back from skiing. And at about midnight, we were like, what if we leave now? And so we cleaned up the place, we packed the car after freeing it from all the snow that was there, and we did a crazy drive back home in the middle of the night in what was like a winter wonderland. Like, there was snow everywhere, there was snow on all of the streets, so we had to be quite careful. It was about, I think, -3 degrees Celsius, but it was really nice. And we got back at, I think, 2:30 in the morning, parked the car, and it was just, there's no one in the streets. And there was like, I kid you not, about 15 centimeters of snow just on the street, like our street, because no one cleaned it. No one was, shoveling or anything. It was just like one winter wonderland. So we got back in the middle of the night And that meant that we had the whole weekend to wake up in our own beds and just enjoy being home as well. So that's been really, really fun. Yesterday we sat down and did some very, very much needed wedding planning, because you guys, the wedding is in the end of March. That's less than 12 weeks now, which is insane. Like, now we're down to like the small and final things like decorations and flowers and oh my gosh, I really can't believe that this is happening. And part of me is like, most part of me is super, super excited about it. I cannot wait. I also cannot wait for our honeymoon, which is our next holiday or our next big holiday. But at the same time, like, there's so many things that still need to happen and so many things to consider that I never even once thought about in my life. So yeah, it's becoming very real. As you may have realized, there's no trace of my wedding cardigan being knit. What's happening with that? I mean, I want to knit all the other things, of course, because that feels like a deadline knit now. So I kind of also thought about maybe not knitting that. In case you don't know, I was planning to knit the Elton cardigan by Joji Locatelli in a very light sort of peachy pink. It's a mohair and lace sort of cardigan, so it would be really, really nice with my white dress, but it wouldn't be very warm. And I don't want to knit it right now because it's a deadline knit, and I don't want to knit what I'm supposed to be knitting. So what I've been thinking is, I've been thinking about knitting like a DK weight, light gray rustic shawl. Like, you know, get a real woolly yarn. I have one that's a little bit nicer than this one, a little bit lighter than this one. But like, you know, one of maybe of Melody Hoffman's patterns of mandarins or something like that, and knit a really huge blanket DK weight shawl. Because I figure we're getting married in March. It may be really cold, and the Elton cardigan will look really nice and really sort of like fragile and beautiful, but it's not going to keep me warm. But I don't know. Can I knit a like a rustic light gray big shawl over a beautiful white wedding dress? I'm not sure. I need to think about it. If you have any thoughts, do let me know. I will not necessarily follow them, but I'm always interested in your input. So that's something I'm thinking about. Otherwise, I need to get my butt into gear and knit that cardigan. Anyways, decisions need to be made, weddings need to be planned. The world will keep turning. So anyways, that's been what's been happening really. So sadly, very, very sadly, it's going back to work tomorrow, and I'm starting with a big bang, because tomorrow I'm already traveling for 2 days. So it means getting up early, taking the train, and jumping in head first, which, yeah, it seems like a big hump right now, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So yeah, it's kind of getting back to real life after having a break, which I really, really enjoyed. I am lucky though, because I still have some holiday days left over from last year because I didn't get to take them. And my lovely Kai, who was too nice to me, he actually surprised me with a little trip for Christmas. So we will be going away for a long weekend in February. So it's not really that bad. And like I said, the wedding countdown is going. So I think it's just a matter of getting back into life and trying not to get like too busy, and then everything else will be here before we know it. So anyways, I've just been rambling, and this is getting really long. I want to do some knitting after editing this podcast, of course. I'm sure you have things to do, so thank you so much for watching this podcast today. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Have so much fun with your knitting. Have a great week. Have a good start if you also, like me, getting back into life and work and all of those things. And I will see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye!